Hello there. Glad to have you all here. I'm Rob, your host for today's exciting episode of Behind the Scenes of an American Symphony Orchestra. In this exclusive series, we give you a sneak peek into the world of symphony orchestras that you won't find anywhere else. And today, we have a special treat for you. William Ford, the force behind AtlantaMusicCritic.com, will be having a one-on-one conversation with none other than Daniel Hart, the illustrious executive director of the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. With over 2 decades of experience in the industry, Daniel has been at the helm of the orchestra since 2004, and he's going to share his valuable insights with us today. First, I'll introduce you to Buffalo, which is a city in western New York, near the eastern end of Lake Erie and the border with Canada. It's the second largest city in the state of New York, with a population of just under 300,000 according to the 2020 census. Buffalo and the nearby city of Niagara Falls make up the Buffalo-Niagara Falls Metropolitan Statistical Area, with an estimated population of 1.1 million in 2020. Now about the fabulous Philharmonic. The Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra mostly performs at Kleinhans Music Hall, a National Historic Landmark. In 2021-22 they put on 103 concerts, including classical music, pop music, rock music, and family concerts. In the summer the orchestra plays at parks and other outdoor places across western New York. It is estimated that 135,000 patrons attended the BPO's concerts. In 1998, JoAnn Falletta became the first woman to be named as music director of a major U.S. symphony orchestra. The BPO is the 19th largest symphony in the U.S. by revenue. Its 2024 990 shows a 2019 income of almost $13 million. Its expenses were listed at about $10 million. The BPO is a hotspot for musical excellence. They've worked with top conductors like William Steinberg, Joseph Cripps, and Michael Tilson Thomas. Their amazing performances have resulted in 36 CDs on Naxos and their own label, Beau Fleuve. Their recording of John Corigliano's Mr. Tambourine Man won not 1 but 2 Grammys in 2009. They've also been nominated for several other Grammys. Daniel Hart, the BPO's executive director, started his career in the Orchestra Management Fellowship Program of the League of American Orchestras. During his fellowship year, he worked with the Cleveland Orchestra, the Colorado Springs Symphony, and the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. After that, he became Assistant Manager Development Director of the Kansas City Symphony. He then went on to become Executive Director of the Baton Rouge Symphony, the Colorado Springs Symphony, and the Virginia Symphony Orchestra. He also served on committees of the League of American Orchestras and as a grant review panelist for various arts councils. These days, Hart is on the board of Young Audiences of Western New York. Before all of this, Hart was trained as a musician on double bass and played with various orchestras. Now on to the conversation. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be wowed. Please welcome William and Daniel.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
hanging in there. Good.
Hey, it's great to meet
Yeah,
you.
nice to meet you too.
Any friend of JoAnn's is great by me.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah, we've known JoAnn and I have known each other since 1987.
Wow,
Yeah. So
that's
we
great.
worked together. Now see, almost 23 years between two organizations. Yeah, so
Quite a groundbreaker on her own. She was wonderful to interview.
Yeah.
And just gracious as anything. So I really appreciate it. Well, enough about her. Let's talk a bit about you.
Okay.
As I read in your bio, you started out as a bass player?
I started playing string bass in 4th grade and played all the way through high school and into college and into my 20s. And it was great. Played in high school all-state orchestra and youth orchestra and all that kind of stuff. So I have a long background in playing music too.
Do you still play?
I only play for fun, but I play electric bass and guitar. So I do not play it. I don't own an upright bass like I used to for classical music.
All right. And then you started at the BPO in 2004 as
That's right.
CEO?
Yep. Nearly 20 years ago.
Well, congratulations.
A long tenure.
Can the gold watch be far away?
It probably is.
That's good.
Life in the
You know,
arts.
as I mentioned to you in my emails, I'm really interested in trying to get a sense of what goes on behind the scenes in symphony orchestras.
Sure.
Everybody knows that there are staff that support the musicians, but mostly we think about the musicians. And I want to refocus a bit to think about the people who work behind the scenes.
Okay.
So the first question that I have for you is, how many people work in your administrative area?
Well, we have 24 full-time and, a number of part-time people that come in different departments, but the core is like 24, 25 people. And that's, all orchestras are different. When I worked in Baton Rouge, my first job, there were 3 of us. So we're running a small orchestra. So, and the large orchestras like Atlanta would have, maybe 3 times as many.
Sure. Which functions report to you?
All the department directors, which are finance, education, marketing, development, and artistic, of course. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So five functional areas that we have, and that's pretty common with most orchestras too.
Right. You also have a board of directors.
We do.
And you're the president of the board?
No, I'm the president and executive director of the paid staff. We have a chairman, who's the chair of the board, leads the board.
How does the board get appointed?
We have a nominating process. So there are term limits. So right now you can serve 9 years total, 3-year terms. And we have a nominating or governance committee that reviews, all best practices for boards and also acts as the nominating committee. So if we have slots that are open, we meet throughout the year, interview people, collect names, and try to find the right fit. We look at what are the needs that our organization has, who's left the board, and what skills did they take with them. Do we need somebody with marketing background? Do we need more finance people? Do we just need lovers of music? All those kinds of things go into making decisions like that.
The BPO is a nonprofit organization.
Correct.
You probably don't generate enough in ticket sales to cover your budget.
Right.
Can you estimate what percentage of your income, your revenue is ticket sales?
We kind of group it, ticket sales and earned income, which would include, like if someone pays us a fee to do a concert someplace. So all that rolls up to about 35% of our budget. And so the other 65% has to come from fundraising or other sources. So, and I believe that this is a pretty common statistic among at least the orchestras and performing arts.
Yeah, I think it is also
40, 60, 30, 70, something in that range. We track very much, we watch the industry trends and we get reports on how the finances, benchmarking percentages. And so we kind of look at those and try to make sure that we're in the right lane or close to what the benchmarks are.
Do you have a lot of corporate sponsorships?
Not really. If we look at our budget this year, we're a $12 million enterprise. And of that, only, I would say, about $500,000 comes from corporate sources. This has been one of the major challenges that are facing organizations these days. Corporations that we've relied on for decades have either been gobbled up by somebody else and gone away, changed their philanthropic criteria, or just aren't giving much at all. So the highest point, we had almost $1 million a year in corporate support. So you can see we've lost half of that over the last 15 years, I would say. They're quick to say it's, hey, it's nothing you're doing wrong. We're going to give over here this year. And so it was fickle to begin with, but we've taken the attitude. My entire time here was that really the people that are coming to the concerts, it's individuals who are going to carry the day. They're the people who have the closest connection to us, who are part of our family. And those are the people that we have to rely on to really balance a budget, and they are reliable. They've been very fortunate and were loyal to us over the years. So we quickly recognized that, and our strategy from the beginning was to build our endowment. So we have contributions, we have ticket sales, but we have been focused on building the endowment to a point where it's providing enough money on an annual basis to take the pressure off of ticket sales and annual contributions. So we've taken our endowment from $7 million to about $60 million over the past 15 years. And now the endowment is kicking off about close to 18 or 20% of our budget, whereas before it was only 3%. So during my time, there have been a couple key strategies, but building the endowment to secure our financial future has been the top one, and the one that I have devoted the most time in my position to.
When I looked at the annual report that you all developed, there are several pie charts that actually I've included in the introduction to our interview, which you will see.
Okay.
One of the things that I noticed is that with regard to the number of patrons who attend various kinds of events that you put on, the classical series is the smallest percentage. I think it was like 17%.
Yeah, for 21, 22. Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I think it speaks to an organization that is interacting with the community in a great way. Yeah, diversity of programs, a diversity of audiences. There's no magic number for, that needs to be 50% or whatever. It really depends on, how you divide up your the time of the orchestra. And so the fact that the education concerts and family concerts are 34% of what we do, I mean, it's just, and it's a twist for people. And this is one of the things that has been the hardest throughout my career, is just battling perception of what orchestras do, and the perception that it's an elitist organization and that you have to dress up in a tuxedo to come, maybe. But if you look at what we do here in Buffalo, and most orchestras are like this probably too, the classic series is just one part, one sliver of what we do. It is the total, I think, from an artistic, the classics is basically what we exist for, that we are an orchestra, and orchestras are playing the greatest music ever written. And so that takes up the lion's share of our services, but not necessarily our audience. And summer, the summer concerts that we do, 30, 40,000 people during the summer that come to see us in outdoor venues, mostly for free. So I think that really is the key. It really speaks to the fact that we've developed an orchestra that is integral to this community and interfaces with them in many ways, not just as a classics based orchestra. So I think that answers your question.
Sure.
I think if you're looking at the 21, 22 statistics, my only caveat would be that, that was the year, a slow return year after COVID. So, we only did virtual things in 2021, 21, 22. We opened for business, full steam ahead, but, our audience was not back. That's for sure. And so those, usually the classic series would probably be more in the 20 to 25% of the total pie. But you're right, in that particular year, that was 17%.
Are the audiences coming back to Kleinhans Hall?
Slowly but surely. This is probably what many of my colleagues in orchestras experienced, but for us, we lost 50% of our subscribers from 1920 to 21, 22. That's thousands of people that just didn't come back. We dropped from, 6,400 subscribers to 3,300. This year, thankfully, we're up to 4,600 subscribers. So yeah, they are coming back. We have a 38% increase this year. But we need that again next year too. We need to get up over 5,000, and then hopefully in 2 years, we'll kind of be back to above the 6,000 mark. So, but that is the key, the central challenge right now. It's the only thing that I worry about is, how are we marketing, and how are we going to try to re-engage with those people and get them back in the hall if we can. So I never thought, you talk about the gold watch, this is not how I want to end my career. I'm determined and excited really to figure out a way to get our audiences back and reconnect. It's kind of perverse in a way, but it's almost reinvigorated me in a sense of, a new challenge, not one that anybody was looking for, but there is a challenge. And we have a commitment to the city and to our musicians that we would need to carry this thing on. So it's a weird way to put it, but it's almost an exciting part of my career now to figure out how to piece it back together.
I assume you develop a budget, and from that each year you set goals for the development and marketing areas.
Yes.
Is that how that works?
Yeah. We don't start from scratch every year. It's a very historical kind of thing where we've got the lion's share of our cost basis is the musicians, almost 75% of it. It's all basically payroll. So you can really kind of get to that number very quickly, and you can look at what our history of ticket sales are and what they might be. If there's any program tweaks that will move the dial a couple percentage points either way. But generally speaking, it's, we look at the budget, we look at what earned income can bring in, and then we look at where our endowment is, and that kind of sets our fundraising goals for us. And, if it's way out of whack, then, you have to do things like trim budgets someplace or look for something else to do, or, all kinds of strategies to try to fill it in. But that's basically how it kind of works from the expenses up, what's the gap, and there's your goal for the fundraising team. Now,
I did see that you are a guest at Kleinhans Hall. You don't own it.
We don't. It's one of the things that is like one of the greatest parts of our organization here is that Kleinhans Music Hall was built in 1940. It's a modern, mid-century modern masterpiece of architecture. Iliel and Errol Saarinen built it. And when I came here, we were renters of the hall. But over the years, we basically just folded it into our operation. So I actually wear a hat as director of Kleinhans now. But and we manage the building for the city through another nonprofit that sits in the middle. In 1940, they formed a nonprofit called Kleinhans Music Hall Management, Inc. And that's the citizens board that operates the hall for the city. And so now, instead of them hiring their own executive director, we just run the building for them. And it's a kind of a exchange of services kind of agreement where we don't pay rent. We just run the place for them and make it work. And so, and this is something that was, again, I didn't come here to run a building, but it is the BPO's home, and it's in our best interest to run it. And the BPO has first pick of the dates. We set our schedule, everything works around it. The Kleinhans in and of itself is not a large part. It's not incorporated in our budget. It's a separate budget. And it ranges from $800,000 to $1 million a year. And most of that is earned income, concessions and parking and ticket fees and things like that, and rental income. But it's in the best, we're in the driver's seat, and this is the best thing. I've worked in orchestras where we rented a hall, it would be like in Columbus, the Broadway series was in the Ohio Theater, and we had to wait until they set their schedule, and then we had to work around it. Same thing in almost every place I've been. We've been beholden to other contracts, other renters. So this is just great. And the city, has many issues. Building upkeep is not one of them, but they have been a good partner in major projects that we have them. Right now, we're in an $18 million capital campaign to fix some things, some old systems at Kleinhans, and they've been a partner as has been the state and the county. So that's another, I would say, has become an exciting part of my job that wasn't part of my job when I got hired to be here.
If the water feature, which surrounds, I think, the front of the building,
correct,
leaks into the foundation, that's a city issue, not your issue.
Well, it's pretty much our issue. I mean, we have to understand that the city just does not have the resources to turn on a dime and fix things. And so this is a good kind of perspective. Of the $18 million worth of work that we're doing, the city is putting in about $2 million. So the rest is coming from other sources. And yes, they have helped in the past in critical issues of public safety. But something like that is probably going to fall back to the Kleinhans board to wrestle with. And that is one of the things that we're trying to fix right now. As a matter of fact, the water's not leaking into the hall, but it's going someplace that we don't know. And we've got to reline it. And it's a small project, like $500,000.
All right. Thinking a bit about the issue of growing audiences and attracting maybe a different demographic, particularly younger people, and of course people of color, but mostly younger people, because there are an awful lot of gray hairs or white hairs in most symphony orchestra audiences. And yet I find most symphonies structure or have rules that seem antithetical to the way young people want to enjoy their evening out. The lack of cell phone usage, for example, the prohibition frequently on taking pictures, particularly of the performances, not being able to bring drinks into the hall, those kinds of things. I know people would love to be texting during performances, but generally that's not allowed. So what are your thoughts on that?
We have finally addressed the sippy cup at Kleinhans, because we now are allowing drinks in. And I thought about it for a long time. Personally, I couldn't really see someone sitting next to me, like with the drink in their hand. But actually it's worked out that it's not that bad. You hardly even notice it. But and plus we were worried about the architecture and the care of the building, and people are going to be spilling drinks. So we've got, cups that have a top on them and you can sip it. And it's really helped out. I mean, look, the liquor sales have gone up for sure. And we really see it in some of the non-BPO things. I mean, that's when we like comedians, when we have comedians or rock shows there. I mean, it's really quite helpful because we used to not allow that. And even in the classics thing, I mean, I think the first weekend that we allowed the drinks in the hall, I was sitting in the balcony, and close to intermission, I was just kind of glancing around. I noticed like a board member and his wife were sitting there with the sippy cup, and a few others. I think I counted 5 around me, but it didn't affect the performance at all.
Mm-hmm.
No one's dropping their cups or spilling things. Everybody is respectful. So that's one thing that we have done, and but it took a lot of thinking. And almost every other hall, in the city is doing it too. So we're kind of like, well, we can't be the last ones to do it. Right. The texting and photographs, I think that our musicians are a lot more forgiving in a sense. I mean, I think they understand the importance of social media and the fact that, people, people are trying to make money off them. They're just trying to share their experience with their friends and their circle of friends. So, we're not ejecting people from the hall for using their phone or something like that. Sometimes ushers get a little strong arm about it, but mostly for me, that part is just more being nice to the people around you instead of setting up a phone and or texting. It's really more about just being a nice neighbor to the people around you more than anything else. But I do think that the orchestra sees the point, or sees that it's not just the worst thing in the world for people to be taking pictures of you. And there's some situations where you absolutely cannot control it. All of our summer concerts, there's no way, that you're not going to see 1,000 cell phones up in the air at some point. So
are your program notes physical paper, online, or both?
We send them out in emails to the people who are coming to the concert the week of, but we also have a printed program for sure.
I imagine there are also contractual issues about taking pictures of the orchestra.
I can't remember the exact clause. There's been video prohibitions, and I'd have to look at the contract exactly to see what it says. But we tell people, I mean, it's part of our deal. Say, please, no flash photography or video during the performance. For sure, we do say that in our programs and in our announcements. So
you do make an announcement before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, again, it's more of a courtesy than a contractual issue. It's like, you just can't be flashing a picture, having a flash go off in somebody's face when they're in the middle of playing. So that's that. But it is an interesting evolution, I guess, of concert etiquette.
Even the myths about what classical audiences have to do, how they have to behave, are really prevalent, particularly among those who don't attend the concerts.
Yeah.
Their myths about what it is keep them from actually going and checking out the reality of it.
Right.
Would you think that's an accurate statement?
Again, that's kind of what I was talking about, the perceptions that we battle all the time in our field. It's like, how do you get someone to open up to an experience like that if they've never been into it or they have a preconceived notion of what it's going to be? And generally what I've found is that once you get people in front of the orchestra, even young people, they enjoy it. They see it for what it is. And I think that this has been our key strategy, again, with the endowment, is that a really big approach to education. So as many kids as we can. I mean, I think that's what else could we do for the future of classical music except to try to expose as many children as possible, students as possible, to the experience of coming in a concert hall. So back in 2004, we had maybe 12,000 people coming, kids K through 12 coming to, kiddie concerts or youth concerts. Now we're serving about 50,000 a year. And most of those are in person. Some are virtual. Every first through sixth grader in the Buffalo public schools, which is, 60% minority, comes to Kleinhans every year. And we have a great partnership with them. So I think that that's where, our head has been, what can we do to the future? We might not have as good a luck attracting 20 and 30 years old, but we can sure attract, the school kids because we have great school programs. So long term, hopefully that will break down that kind of perception in the wall that would hinder someone from coming through the door.
Of your staff members, do they work from home or work in the office?
We're back at the office now. We're very flexible. And especially coming out of COVID, we're particularly flexible with staff members have families. Childcare issues, things like that. But for the most part, we're back. I think we have, the policy is 1 day out of the office a week is permissible, but most people are totally back in the office now. I just find that, we have such a crazy schedule, so many different things that we have to do. We just have to be together to kind of keep on track.
Of course, you've probably read a lot of the futurists who are decrying the death of downtowns because of the work from home.
Yeah.
And I have some sympathy for that position.
Yeah.
I think there are going to be all kinds of other issues about working from home that haven't arisen yet. Like, what if you fall when you're on
The clock.
company time?
Yeah.
Does that go to your homeowners or does that go to your employer? Those kinds of things. And I don't think we've begun to see all of that shake out yet.
Yeah. It seems to me like I'm hearing two things here in Buffalo. A lot more people are coming back to the office, but in some of the bigger companies like M&T Bank here, who has thousands of employees, they're saying that if you can't offer some out of office work as part of the package, they cannot recruit the best people. So it's almost an expectation in some areas. And that particular one is in the tech area. They have a big tech hub here for the banking, for their bank. And the tech workers are really used to working from home. They like it.
Although this is probably my own stereotype, but those are maybe the kinds of jobs that can work in isolation.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah.
But when you're talking about planning, it's awful nice to have somebody right down the hall that you can go and chat with.
Yeah. I tell you though, I mean, during the pandemic that year, we did everything on Zoom, staff meetings. It was really great in one sense that, JoAnn, she lost all her work around the globe, of course. And so JoAnn was in our weekly staff meetings, our senior staff meetings. And, and she doesn't usually do that, but it was really kind of nice. And, it was crisis. So it was a crisis mode, and she was right in there with us. It was really good to have her in the Zoom calls. And that's technology. Thank goodness that somebody came up with the fact that you could do that, because it's how we got through. It's how we got through, for sure.
When you're doing the artistic planning,
Uh-huh.
and you're going to be scheduling guest artists in, how does that process work? Do their representatives send you a schedule of, here's who we have available this year on these dates, and this is their repertoire? How does that work?
In our organization, and I'm assuming that this is be like most other organizations, the conductors, the music director has a very good idea of what their plan is for the orchestra and who they like to work with. And so it's not so much agents coming to us and saying, these are our people, but us going to the agents saying, we're interested in so-and-so, and here are some dates that are they available for them, and what would their fee be? So JoAnn has the vision of what she wants to do from a repertoire standpoint, and mostly guest artist standpoint. And she gives that to our VP for artistic operations, who then is in contact with the agents and tries to put together a deal, work out budgets and things like that. And that is, that's how it works on the classical side. And then it's more staff driven for pop and education and things like that, because JoAnn oversees it all, but she hands that off to other people. So it's in the pops area, it's much more market driven, what shows are out there that we can afford, what kind of artists, what our pops audience like to see. So that's the only difference. And the vice president for our artistic administration would be really in charge of running that program and giving the options to the staff. We have a very collaborative way of doing business here, and JoAnn is always asking the orchestra for input on what artists they might like, or guest conductors, or even repertoire that they might like to do. But my experience is that she has a very clear vision of what she wants to do, and then kind of everything else falls around that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Every time I ask people about how that actually works, they're always kind of mystified by it when I've asked them. So it's good to hear your view of it. And guest conductors, is that something initiated by JoAnn also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, she's someone. She's not opposed to looking at options. If you say, well, I saw this person over there, heard about this person, she's very open. But we do 18 weeks of classical programming here. JoAnn's on the podium for 11 or 12, sometimes 13 of them. So there's really not that many options for guest conductors. I mean, it's just 5 or 6 a year. So it's not like there's a lot of need there for that. And again, I think that in orchestras like us, it's worked pretty good that, we have some people that we like a lot. They're favorites. They're not house, they're not part of our orchestra, but they are people that have done very well with us. They work well with JoAnn. And so and I think for our audience standpoint too, it's good for the audience to see not only new people, but to have some familiar faces that will come back. And Fabio Bedini, the great Italian pianist, is one of these people who he was, one of the, not a runner-up, but one of the medalists in the Van Cliburn, maybe 30 years ago. He's a brilliant pianist, and we just love to have him. We take him on tour with us. He comes back every 2 or 3 years. He's coming back again in the fall. But there's a case where somebody, it's like a slam dunk. Of course, we're going to have Fabio back. He's just great. And I'm sure it's great for JoAnn too, because they have a rhythm. They know how to work with each other. So that's a good thing.
The Buffalo Niagara Metropolitan Statistical Area is about a million people.
But yeah, it's roughly 1 million people.
If you think of your budget or revenue on a per capita basis, you actually do quite well.
I think so. I think we've always prided ourselves on an orchestra that punches above our weight. We're recording all the time. We've got Grammys. We are touring. We've gone to Poland in the past 5 years. We've been go to Florida every few years on tours. We tackle big repertoire, and we have big artists here. So, yeah, I think that we're operating on a smaller budget than most full-time orchestras or 52-week orchestras, but I think we're doing about the same amount of work, and it's a good thing. We're doing the best we can for this size of community, and sometimes I think it's almost too much, but that's also just another kind of point of pride about how we can really deliver like the best music possible to this community and impact them in a great way. So it's a challenge because it is a small community from my viewpoint, and that in many ways it's a community that loves its cultural treasures, and they've been supporting the BPO now for almost 90 years. So,
well, great. Is there anything else that you think we should cover? I got a good sense of how you operate.
No, I think we covered most of the things that you wanted to cover. So I hope it's given your listeners or viewers at least a glimpse into how an orchestra runs and what goes on behind the scenes. Nice to meet you, William.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I am thrilled to express my utmost gratitude to Daniel and William for conducting an awe-inspiring interview. We had the privilege of hearing from the renowned Mr. Hart, who generously shared his extensive experience, knowledge, and expertise on the inner workings of a major American symphony orchestra. I was particularly impressed by Hart's innovative strategy for expanding the BPO's endowment, which we found to be nothing short of remarkable. With his exceptional vision, Hart is leading the way towards sustainable growth and success for the BPO, setting a shining example for others to follow. Thank you, William, for giving us the opportunity to learn from such a remarkable individual. We want to make sure you never miss out on the latest news and updates from Atlanta Music Critic. That's why we kindly ask you to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for our platform. By liking our content, you show your support and help us reach more music lovers like yourself. Subscribing ensures that you never miss an update, while turning on notifications guarantees that you're always in the know when we release new content. So whether you're a die-hard fan, or simply enjoy keeping up with the latest music trends, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Atlanta Music Critic. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you even more exciting content in the future. As you know, we at Atlanta Music Critic are committed to bringing you the most up-to-date news and reviews from the music industry. However, to continue to do so, we need your support now more than ever. That's why we're calling on our valued viewers and subscribers to become patrons of our work by visiting www.patreon.com/AtlantaMusicCritic. Your contribution will help us continue to provide you with high-quality content, exclusive interviews, and in-depth analysis of the latest music trends. So, if you're a fan of what we do and want to help us keep the music alive, please consider becoming a patron today. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you even more exciting content in the future. We're always looking to bring you the most exciting and captivating interviews. That's why we want to hear from you. We value your opinion and would love to know who you would like to see featured in our upcoming interviews. So if you have any suggestions on who you'd like to see on our platform, please don't hesitate to share them in the comments section below. We appreciate your input and can't wait to bring you more exclusive interviews that you won't find anywhere else. If you would like more information about the fabulous BPO, go here. If you'd like more information about leader and innovator Maestro JoAnn Falletta, go here. This video was recorded via Zoom and produced by William Ford. The video was edited in Vegas Pro 365. This is Rob for AtlantaMusicCritic.com. Thank you for watching and see you soon.